It's time for Overtime.
Stop what you're doing and listen.
In the world of sports, it's all about the playmakers in today's headlines, from locals to the pros, with interviews from local standouts and sports all-stars across the country that will have you talking.
Steps back, three. Yes, sir. Get a shot up. This is for the win.
Hear from coaches to players, sports analysts, and broadcasters who are a part of the action every day. Overtime, now with Bert Ramin on ESPN 102.3 AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Welcome into the Wednesday edition of Overtime. I'm Bert Ramin. We are ready to rumble on a Wednesday, and it's a big opportunity for you and yours to score and win big on the show today. The Identity Crisis presented to you, as always, by the fine folks over at the Original Pancake House is later on in hour number one. Now, usually, each and every week, you get hooked up with a gift card to OPH and maybe some other goodie we have here. But today's a big day. We got the OPH gift card in the hopper for you. I got Minnesota Twins tickets in the hopper for you as well. And one of just a few remaining opportunities for you to be guaranteed not to drop the ball and a guaranteed smile on the face of your mom, your significant other, the mother of your children, or just an opportunity to snack on some great cupcakes from Oh My Cupcakes. It's a free 6-pack, and it's included in today's prize pack from the Identity Crisis by the Original Pancake House. Also on today's show, this Wednesday, May 8th edition of Overtime, we'll be talking Minnesota Twins playing pretty darn good lately. They were on the wrong side of it yesterday in a loss that included giving up a grand slam to the Seattle Mariners. But nonetheless, it's been more good than bad lately for the Minnesota Twins by a mile. And we'll talk to a world-traveling Twins geek. John Bonus just got back stateside. And from Twins Daily, he swings by the show at about 11:20 on this morning's hour number one. Latest from the NFL, the schedule release is coming, and what big name wide receiver that was a free agent did the Minnesota Vikings miss out on yesterday? That's right, another wide receiver signed a deal somewhere else that's not Minnesota. And I'll tell you this, I don't think the Minnesota Vikings have a glaring need at wide receiver, but they certainly have a need for someone who can be the wide receiver 3 in the offense. Could it be on the roster already? Could it be Trent Sherfield? Could it be Jalen Naylor? Sure, it absolutely could be, but that would be a significant downgrade, at least one would think, from what KJ Osborne brought to the table over the last few years in Minnesota. Osborne now a member of the New England Patriots, one of the big-name wide receivers that was available on the free agent market, and a name that came out of Dustin Baker's mouth last week about a potential free agent's target. Late stage of free agency for the Vikings has signed elsewhere. We'll dive into that and the latest from the NFL midway through hour number one. Last segment of hour number one is the place to be, the Identity Crisis presented by the Original Pancake House. As always on a Wednesday, if you're listening early, you get an early courtesy clue. Former NBA basketball player is today's Identity Crisis, brought to you by the Original Pancake House. That's your courtesy clue off the jump. We'll talk to you Identity Crisis folks later on in hour number one. Hour number two, headlines and highlights, the latest from the NBA, the odds for tonight and tomorrow, and what the heck is the NBA thinking? They're not going to suspend Jamal Murray. Instead, it's a pretty decent fine for the Nuggets star for throwing a couple of objects at a ref on the court or otherwise, including one heating pad that landed on the floor during play. It was obscenely dangerous, an act there from Jamal Murray. I thought a suspension was warranted, as did many others across the sports world. But Denver will have one of their best players available for Game 3 as they're up against it right now. They've bent pretty darn far. We'll see if they are broken in Game 3 coming up on Friday night from the Twin Cities. Augustana and new Los Angeles Chargers quarterback Casey Bauman will join us around 12:30, talk about his pro opportunity with Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert, and the Chargers out in L.A. Can't wait for that chat. And we'll round out today's show with the latest and greatest in the good, the bad, and the ugly. It was a very entertaining night in the NHL playoffs last night. First things first, we got overtime and double overtime between the Hurricanes and the Rangers. Rangers slammed the door late.
Kreider sending it back out for a shot. It's blocked. Zibanejad towards the net. Knocked down. Trocheck scores! He scores! Vincent Trocheck wins Game 2 in double overtime and is bombed by his Ranger teammates.
Going to see a really good team sent back in early there. If it happens to be Carolina losing there. Rangers up 2-0 with a 4-3 win over Carolina last night. 98.7 ESPN New York with the audio there. Another wildly entertaining game. Dallas was cruising early. 3-0 the lead over Colorado. The road team. Avalanche come back and win the game in overtime.
Miles Wood in space. He's got some speed. Wood towards the net. He scores! Reach for the sky! The comeback is complete! Miles Wood!
Anytime you get a Woody from Toy Story reference built into a highly energetic highlight and call, I am all in. I'm still all in on the Colorado Avalanche. They win it in overtime 4-3. That audio, very high quality from Altitude Sports 92.5. Tonight in the NHL, we got a pair of games going on. Game 2, Bruins at Panthers from Florida, 6:30 on ESPN. And Game 1 between the Oilers and the Canucks from Vancouver. That puck drops at 9 o'clock, also watchable tonight on ESPN. NBA has not let us down in the postseason so far at all. Cleveland and Boston. Boston was a 12-point favorite yesterday when we checked in on the odds during the show. They live up to the billing in a dominant win in Game 1 over the Cavs.
Rebound, Drew Holiday. Boston by 17. On the ball here early in the fourth. Jalen pull up, 3 in the air, 20-point lead. For the 5th time in the playoffs and the 46th time in the 88 games they've played, Boston is up by 20.
Impressive stuff for the Celtics last night, 120-95 the final. Jaylen Brown, one of the leaders for Boston, 32 points and 6 rebounds. Here's last night's final call.
Careful what you wish for. As the Cavaliers get Boston, and like most of the teams that have walked into TD Garden, they get blown off the floor. And the clock hits triple zeros, and it is over. The Celtics strike first in the Eastern Conference semifinals. The final score, Boston 120, Cleveland 95.
Boston takes a 1-0 series lead there. OKC and Dallas tussled in what is anticipated to be a really good series. OKC dominant last night, 117-95 from Oklahoma City, including a 28-16 fourth quarter margin. OKC was cooking. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, one of many stars, 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists. And for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, it's all about staying composed in the pressure moments.
We just try to focus on the next possession and playing against a team that shoots the ball the way they do. We know that they can get hot, they can go on runs in the game. You never really have complete control of the game, and you never are out of a game. That's the mindset we try to take. We just try to focus on the next possession. And we stacked possessions for that next 5 minutes or so and got back to lead.
Again, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 29 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, and a 117-95 win over Dallas. For the Mavericks side of things, Luka Doncic says, who cares? We lost and we're moving on.
Who cares? We lost, man. We just got to move on to the next one. Got to be better. We got to be better and just, we're known for Game 1 struggling, but we got to focus. They're a great team, great defensive team, great offensive team, so it's not going to be easy at all. We got to play very good basketball and focused basketball for 8 minutes.
Couple lopsided Game 1s last night. Again, Boston 120-95 over Cleveland, and OKC finishes the job in Game 1 against Dallas 117-95. Tonight in the NBA, just one game. It's Game 2 from MSG. Knicks are home to the Pacers, 7 o'clock jump time on TNT. Major League Baseball yesterday, Padres and Cubs. Cubs had dropped the day before yesterday to the Padres. They get back on the right track, and Michael Busch with a big-time homer.
Michael Busch leads off the bottom of the 9th inning. Here's the pitch. A swing and a drive. Deep right center. It's got a chance. Cubs win the ball game. Michael Busch, a game-winning home run.
Pretty darn special early start to the career for Michael Busch. Audio there, 670 to score. Cubbies win at 3-2. They are 22-15 this year. Detroit and Cleveland tussled yesterday. Tigers get the road win 11-7. Detroit 19-17. Cleveland falls to 23-13. Other finals, White Sox continue a tough season. They lose 5-1 in Tampa yesterday. Chicago is 8-28. And elsewhere, Milwaukee cooks it up on the road to the tune of a 6-5 win.
Here's the pitch. Breaking ball hammered out to left. Back goes Hampson at the track. Wall. Gone! Willie Adames flips this game on its head. The Brewers take a 6-5 lead in the 9th.
That would be the final 6-5. WTMJ with the audio. Brewers are 21-14. KC with the home loss 21-16. Minnesota 20-15 on the season. They lost yesterday at home to Seattle 10-6. One big reason why is the Mariners got 4 runs at the one swing of a bat with a big grand slam.
Very big pitch in this ballgame. 3-2 to Cal. The pitch. Swing on high drive left field. Oh, baby. That is way up there and gone on the third deck. A grand slam for Cal Raleigh.
KIRO, the coverage there. Jorge Alcala with the loss for Minnesota, 1-1 on the season. Minnesota's new record, 20-15. They'll do it again this evening, 6:40 the start time. Other finals, Mets over the St. Louis Cardinals, 7-5. And San Francisco blanks Colorado in Denver, 5-0 there. Rockies, one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball, 8-27 on the season. Today and tonight in Major League Baseball, 12:10 an early start time for the Guardians home to the Tigers, 12:15 on ESPN Plus, Mets at Cardinals. Other games going on today, Brewers at Royals, Padres at Cubs. White Sox are in Tampa to match up with the Rays. Giants visit the Rockies in Denver. Mariners at Twins. It's game 3 of a 4-game series today, 6 o'clock the pregame, 6:40 the official start time right here on ESPN Sioux Falls. The NFL in a little bit of a lull. We're getting some signings trickling in of some veteran players. Joe Burrow says in regards to the opportunity for the NFL to expand the season to 18 regular season games and the continued expansion with international contests, the NFL with those expansion plans should strongly consider a second bye week for each team during the regular season.
Definitely something that we've thought about. 18 games is definitely a big ask. That's not easy. Adding that extra game, obviously it'd be great for revenue, but you keep that first bye week and then, some teams have the bye week 5, week 6, and then you're going 12, 13 games in a row. That's not easy. Probably a Thursday night game thrown in there too. That's never easy. So those 2 byes are pretty critical. Maybe you could do something like the first bye is kind of how we have it now, and the second bye everybody has it at once, and you make it like Pro Bowl week or something like an All-Star break for the NBA. I don't know.
The NFL should be listening to their players on that. After all, we just got done with a season where a slew of quarterbacks missed significant time, including Joe Burrow. Speaking of other players out there, Matthew Stafford gearing it up for another season in the latter stages of his career. Calvin Johnson with a rare media appearance talking about the Detroit Lions and his former quarterback in Matthew Stafford. Does Matthew Stafford have one more go-round at a potential Super Bowl chance? Calvin Johnson says,
Matthew looks good and healthy to me. I don't know what he's dealing with his back, his neck, and all those things. But, the guy that I played with in Detroit, he was a little chubby and pudgy. Looking at Matthew now, Matthew like he's out there running all the time. Matthew in good shape. As long as Matthew keeps that arm strong, his line keeps him up stable, yeah, the guy can do it again. He's done it one time. I felt like he could have done it while we were in Detroit. We should have the full team around him. So as long as they put the guys around him, yeah, he can do it.
There weren't a whole lot of people this past offseason buying into what the Rams were selling. They were short on draft capital, short on talent. They land Puka Nacua. They got Cooper Kupp. They got Kyron Williams. They got Matthew Stafford and a retooled defense. The Rams could be a player in the NFC playoff picture once again. They were a playoff team after all last season. Rest of your scorecard here. NASCAR's next race at Darlington on Sunday, 2 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. PGA Tour Golf gets going tomorrow from Charlotte, North Carolina. The Wells Fargo Championship running Thursday through Sunday. And the UFL, 4 games over the weekend, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, beginning with the Showboats at the Renegades at noon on Saturday. You can watch that game on ESPN. Big news out of Vermilion today as we start out your Reliabank headlines of the day for hour number 1. University of South Dakota Athletic Director John Schemmel announced today a 4-year contract extension for head football coach Bob Nielsen that now runs through the 2027 season. The 2023 season was the team's most successful at the FCS level, tallying 10 wins, hosting 2 home playoff games, and finishing the season ranked 4th in the nation. Nielsen has 31 years of head coaching experience, 228 career wins, ranks 1st among active FCS coaches and 5th among all active NCAA football coaches. Nielsen was introduced as the 30th head coach in school history back in December of 2015, 3-time National Coach of the Year, 2-time National Champion, and was Missouri Valley Football Conference Coach of the Year in 2015, and most recently last season in 2023. The Coyote football team opens their season inside the Dakota Dome against Northern State on Thursday, August 29th at 7 o'clock in the evening. Season tickets available now. GoYotes.com/tickets, or if you'd prefer to dial in, 605-677-5959 for Coyote season tickets. The CCHA has announced its slate of games for the upcoming hockey season, which includes Augustana's 16 games against league competition. A full voting member, Augustana Hockey is still playing a transitional schedule next year against CCHA competition with 16 games. That's one series against each member of the conference for the final time this upcoming season before playing a full league schedule the following year. Augie is immediately eligible for NCAA tournament consideration. All things considered, year number one, the inaugural season, everything that goes with that, all the new faces to the roster, the new faces to the coaching staff. The Vikings were 7-7-2 within conference last year, 4-3-1 on their home ice. As for the full schedule of CCHA opponents and non-conference teams, that'll be announced as a later date, but you can find the entire CCHA schedule, which begins in early November with road dates at St. Thomas, and the home CCHA openers will be Bemidji State, November 8th and the 9th. Here in Sioux Falls at Midco Arena, GoAugie.com, the place to find that article. You can also find the nuts and bolts of it at ESPNSiouxFalls.com. South Dakota placed 5 softball players on the All-Summit League teams following yesterday's announcement and a vote by league's head coaches. Tatum Vallada was named the second team, while 4 players, Clara Edwards, Delaney White, Olivia Conti, and Gabby Moser, were honorable mention selections. Again, 5 total Coyotes were selected for the all-conference teams announced there. As for SDSU, the 2024 Summit League Softball All-League Awards were announced yesterday ahead of the Summit League Softball Championship. 8 South Dakota State softball players were recognized on the Summit League softball teams, which were selected by the conference's head coaches, highlighted by infielder Mia Jarecki being named the Summit League Player of the Year. Jarecki has been SDSU's everyday second baseman over the past 2 years and put up impressive numbers again this year en route to the Jackrabbits claiming their 4th straight Summit League regular season title with a 14-2 record in conference play. The Jackrabbits had a league-high 5 players selected to the first team All-Summit League. Joining Jarecki on the first team were outfielder Lindsey Culver, catcher Brooke Dumont, pitcher Tori Kanishi, and outfielder Emma Osmondson. For the full list of SDSU Jackrabbit softball players honored, it's an easy find there at GoJacks.com. The NSIC champion Augustana baseball team had an NSIC best 7 players earn all conference honors while taking home the 2024 Pitcher of the Year, Player of the Year, and Coach of the Year honors announced by the conference office yesterday afternoon. Ashton Mishik, Jack Hines, and Tim Huber were all tabbed the best for their respective roles this year. Caleb Sari and Dre Dirksen joined Mishik and Hines on the first team All-NSIC, while J.D. Hennon, Tate Miners, and Jason Axelberg have earned second team conference honors. Dirksen also earned a spot on the NSIC All-Defensive Team. GoAugie.com for more there. And lastly, the Northern Sun announced their NSIC Baseball All-Conference Awards, and for USF, Brady Clare was named to the All-Defensive Team, played in and started every game for the Cougars this year in the outfield, had 49 hits and 167 at-bats, and he hit 14 doubles, 1 homer, and a career-high 42 RBI this season. Brady Clare, the lone USF honoree for the NSIC All-Conference Awards. Dallas Mavericks superstar Luka Doncic didn't care to discuss the extenuating circumstances involved in the struggles during last night's loss to OKC in Game 1 of the Western Conference semis. Doncic, who was dealing with a sprained right knee and smothering defense of OKC, was held to just 19 points on 6 of 19 shooting from the floor, snapping his streak of 24 consecutive games with at least 20 points. We heard the soundbite moments ago. Doncic, little irritable after the Game 1 loss. Who cares? We lost. We got to be better. We got to focus. They're a great team, a great defensive team, so it's not going to be easy at all. Doncic was the NBA scoring leader who sprained his knee early in Game 3 of the Mavericks' first-round series win over the Clippers. Looking to get healthy and looking to get his team back on the right track. Certainly not panic mode right now for Dallas after losing Game 1 to a higher seed on the road. look to play better and a little bit more focused up in Game 2. Game 1, not a blowout by any means, but a dominant fourth quarter for OKC to finish the job. They dominate that frame 28-16, win the game 117-95. We take the break, come back talking about those Minnesota Twins. Can they get another win today against Seattle? Also be in action against the Mariners tomorrow in the conclusion of a 4-game series against the Mariners. We'll talk to the Twins Geek, John Bonus of Twins Daily, Gleeman and Geek Show, and more coming up next on the Wednesday edition of Overtime.
Online and with the app, this is Overtime with Bert Ramin on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Right back with you on the Wednesday edition of Overtime. If you ever missed any of the show, podcast links are always available, ESPNSiouxFalls.com or on that free mobile device app, ESPN Sioux Falls, free download at the Apple App Store or on Google Play. Now time to go to the ESPN hotline and talk with a guy who is dubbed the Twins Geek, John Bonus of Twins Daily, Gleeman and Geek Show, and so much more. He was an international correspondent for the Minnesota Twins recently. Okay, we might be exaggerating there, but he was out of the country and the Twins were playing really good. So if the Twins regress and fall back to earth a little bit, you can blame John Bonus. John, welcome to the show. Are you okay with me saying that?
Let me clarify this. They were still terrible for the first half of the time I was out of the country. All right. But yes, the 12-game winning streak did take place almost in its entirety. 10 of those 12 games were won while I was traveling through Japan and Korea forever.
Well, and I know that it seemed like a pretty cool trip. You got to see some baseball out there, all sorts of cool stuff. Tell us a little bit more about that. And in regards to the baseball experience, if you can steal one or two things from Japan's baseball culture and inject them into American baseball culture, what is it and why?
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, we went to 3 games. We went to one in Sapporo, which is a brand new stadium, and that's interesting in that it's very similar to U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis because it was designed by the same architects. Very similar. We also went to a game in Korea, in Seoul, Korea. And my big takeaway from that one is their culture. Japan is a little bit of a mixture between Major League Baseball and Korean culture. The Korean games, it is incredible how much standing and chanting and singing and hand movements and such are done in unison from the entire bottom half of the inning.
Wow.
As soon as the half of the inning starts, they have a stage, they have a hype man, they have a DJ, they have 4 cheerleaders, and they lead like literally 80% of the stadium, probably 5,000 fans, in singing and chanting constantly throughout that inning. And then they do it again the next half inning and the next half inning. And then the third one we went to was a game in the Tokyo Dome, the Yomiuri Giants. They play the Tokyo Dome was built soon after the Metrodome and based on it. So it was, if you take a look at my pictures, you will swear I am in the Metrodome. And you get to get blown out the door at the end by the high air pressure in the Metrodome. You're just like you got to in the Metrodome. It was great.
Great memories, I'm sure, and all sorts of great experiences out there. And I got to tell you, I'm all on board for making baseball just a tad more entertaining in person. I love going to a ball game, but the Korean baseball game seems like a lot of fun. I'd be all on board for that, especially if my team's winning. If my team's down and playing awful, I'm not sure if I want to be part of the chants and everything. But again, probably can't hurt and maybe bringing them back down to reality or up to reality. Let's talk about the Twins. The streak and the sausage. First things first, top 3 sausages. I'm going to give you mine. My favorite sausage is a brat. Second is summer sausage. Spent some time in Wisconsin as a kid. And number 3, I'm going to go pretty darn plain and easy here. A hot dog is a sausage. I'll take those as my top 3. What say you for your top 3 sausages before we dive into the Twins?
It's going to have to, it kills me to leave the hot dog out of it. Right.
Yeah.
Number 1 is the Johnsonville summer sausage. I love Johnsonville summer sausage.
Yep.
Something I almost always have in my fridge. Number 2, I'm going to give you a curveball. The Jimmy Dean ground sausage.
Wow.
That you have for breakfast.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just a half step behind the Johnsonville summer sausage. And for 3, I will just go with any Polish sausage. A really good hot dog. Like you give me a good pork-based hot dog. can challenge a Polish sausage. But I'm going to take a Polish sausage 6 times out of 10. It's a good hot dog.
I didn't even think about ground sausage because we're talking elite sausage. Really good Italian sausage is up there with anything, whether it's in spaghetti, on pizza, whatever. I need to rethink my sausage game moving forward. Minnesota Twins playing really darn good for the most part over the last couple weeks. Obviously, big 12-game win streak. It's a historic win streak. What do you think was clicking the most? I know a lot of people will say they weren't playing the best teams, but I don't care who you're playing. It's a big, long win streak. You're getting the wins. You're getting your groove. What, in your eyes, really clicked for Minnesota during that 12 games?
Yeah, first thing I'll say is that, I did take a look at the 15-game win streak that everybody points to for the 1991 team. And in that game, 13 of their 15 games were played versus teams that didn't even win 72 games that year.
Wow.
So, it's almost a necessity. If you're going to have a long win streak, it's going to be because you're facing bad teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just the way it works. And the really good teams, make 8. They don't take 8 out of 10. They take 10 out of 10, right? And so that's what we saw. And it was primarily driven by the Twins' offense this time. The pitching has been pretty consistent, especially ever since they traded Varland for Simeon Woodruff, which has been very good since his promotion. But the offense just came alive after being, beyond dormant, like just dead for those first 20 games. You had so many guys who were hitting below the Mendoza line. It seemed untenable that would continue. And if it did continue, they were going to be in real trouble. Instead, a lot of the veteran bats came alive. They got some healthy guys back. Correa came back. Max Kepler came back. He's been unbelievable since he came back. And they had a couple of guys get called up that have been really good. Trevor Larnach has really shined. So what we're seeing now is, we just talk about Ryan Jeffers. He's been incredible on an absolute tear. So there's just been, it's been a completely different offensive team over the last, say, 15 games than it was over those first 20.
Certainly very entertaining so far this year for the Minnesota Twins. Slow start, nice long win streak, couple losses lately, but overall playing really well. John, let me ask you about the depth of the offensive side, because there's a lot of different bats that are hot. You mentioned Kepler, you mentioned Jeffers, Willie Castro's playing really well. How deep do you think this team is compared to last year and 2, 3, 4 years ago?
Yeah, I think they tried to do the same thing this offseason that they did the previous offseason, and that worked out pretty well for them. The truth is that a lot of the veterans they picked up in the offseason haven't been particularly productive. Carlos Santana still hitting underneath 200, and he's heated up a little bit, but not great. Manny Margot just doesn't seem to be able to get on track. A lot of and Kyle Farmer also has been, had a real tough run for this first month. I think a lot of their depth now is coming from their prospects. Austin Martin has come up. He hasn't lit the world on fire, but we saw him beat out an important hit last night. And he's a guy that's for AAA. Brooks Lee, we are waiting for him to get healthy. It sounds like we're, at least another month away from that. But you had guys like Jose Miranda, who, we kind of forgotten about. But he's come up and done been an offensive revelation. Trevor Larnach, I think a lot of people have kind of given up on, has come up and it's got a 900 OPS right now and is driving the ball all around the field. So I feel like there is a lot of depth, and the best part about that depth is it seems to be depth that is young depth that as it gets more at bats can develop into some real impact starting players.
Minnesota Twins currently 20-15, just 2.5 games back of first place Cleveland. They're in action today, playing host to Seattle. It's a 6:00 pregame start, 6:40. The official start time right here on the Minnesota Twins radio network, ESPN Sioux Falls. Continuing our chat with John Bonus of Twins Daily, the Gleeman and Geek Show, and more. You can find him on Twitter at Twins Geek. Yankees and Guardians coming up within the next week. I know it's still early to really determine who's good and who's bad, who's overachieving, who's underachieving, but how much are you looking forward to seeing this team in action against the Yankees and the Guardians, and what are you looking to see out of the Twins?
Well, the Guardians one is just plain important because they're leading the division. You just want to make up some ground. Yankees are always an interesting one because I think Minnesotans, for really since the franchise started in 1961, kind of like to use the Yankees as a measuring stick against their own ball club. I'm really looking forward to it. This is a different team than the one that ran into the Dodgers, which was another good sort of measuring stick series that they had probably too early on in the year. And yeah, it'll be, I'm really excited to see both those teams come to town and see, how the Twins respond to that and whether or not, some of the hitting that we've seen so far can remain strong, and whether or not the bullpen kind of bounce back from a couple of tough days and, find itself and, start locking down some of these late wins.
Looking forward to the Minnesota Twins moving forward. Again, 20-15, the record, a narrow edge over Kansas City for second in the division. Coming up, they got 2 games today, tomorrow against Seattle, and then they've got Toronto Friday, Saturday, and Sunday before the Yankees series begins on Tuesday. John, before we let you go, you went to 3 different baseball stadiums, baseball venues on the international trip. Where do you stand right now in terms of hitting the road venues in Major League Baseball here in the U.S.? How many have you been to?
We've got 28 out of 30.
Wow.
The last 2 are the 2 Florida ones. We saved all the hottest ones for the end. The last 3 we hit were the 2 in Texas and the 1 in Arizona. We've got the 2 left in Florida. I think we're going to hit those the last weekend of August and first weekend of September. The Twins play, I think, Tampa right at the beginning of September. And meanwhile, my wife, who's a Phillies fan, they'll be taking on the Marlins down there. So hopefully we'll knock off the last 2 a little bit later this summer.
John, hopefully you don't alienate anybody with this question, but you can say it quietly if you want to. Out of all those stadiums you visited, all the venues, which one is the most, I won't be back?
Oh, well, there's actually a fair amount of those.
Wow.
I think I'm not really looking forward to either of the last 2 that we're going to be going to right now. I'll tell you the one I think is kind of most overrated. I think Yankee Stadium is overrated.
Ooh.
Yankee Stadium seems to be a place that everybody has to go. I would still put it in probably the lower third of the stadiums that I've been to. And partly it's because it's a stadium, not a ballpark. My favorite places to go one of my favorites is Wrigley Field.
Yep.
Much more of a ballpark. Next one is PNC Park in Pittsburgh. Also a ballpark, great view of the city, etc. Yankee Stadium feels, kind of big and concrete, and I'll tell you where the Twins are going this weekend would probably be another one that's kind of low on the list for me. I'd like to go to Toronto to see Toronto, but I don't really want to see the Toronto Sky Dome. Although I've never really stayed in that hotel. Maybe that would change my mind.
Might just change your mind, and another international trip maybe on the books here soon. That's the Twins Geek, John Bonus, TwinsDaily.com, also the Gleeman and Geek Show. John, always a pleasure talking to you. Until next time, we'll get thinking a little bit harder on the best sausages out there for the next big, long Twins win streak, okay?
All right. So talk to you later, Bert.
All right. Can't wait for that. John Bonus of Twins Daily. Easy place to find daily, like in the name, updates on your Minnesota Twins. TwinsDaily.com. That's John Bonus, the Twins Geek. He's an easy find on social media at Twins Geek, Geek. Also tagged in today's show log. Great stuff and an inside look at those surging Minnesota Twins. They were in 4th place in the division not too long ago. They're now in 2nd with a record of 20-15. Upcoming series against Cleveland within the next week. They'll also see the Yankees with that series starting on Tuesday, May the 14th. When we come back, the latest from the NFL is right in front of us. The schedule release is coming and some important updates on some free agents from around the NFL. That's next on this Wednesday edition of Overtime.
ESPN's more of Overtime with Bert Rameen on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Moving right along, it's the Wednesday, May 8th edition of Overtime. Still to come immediately next in hour number 1 is the Identity Crisis presented to you by the Original Pancake House. Not only can you win a gift card to the very best breakfast place in the 605, that's OPH, 41st in Kiwanis. Great destination for out-of-town folks, in-town folks, Sioux Falls natives, Sioux Falls wannabes, and everyone in between. OPH, 41st in Kiwanis here in Sioux Falls. You can win Twins tickets and a 6-pack of cupcakes to Oh My Cupcakes just in time to save the day, save your behind for Mother's Day. Get on it. Mother's Day coming up on Sunday. I'm certainly ahead of the ball just a bit on my Mother's Day priorities. You can be as well with ESPN Sioux Falls. The Identity Crisis brought to you by OPH Looms. Coming up next after this break, in which we will be talking the NFL and college football. Diving into this now, former five-star quarterback Sam Heward, who is the top-ranked quarterback back in the class of 2021, is transferring to Utah from FCS Cal Poly. Heward spent last season as the starter at Cal Poly, where he transferred after spending 2 seasons in a backup quarterback role at Washington, where his father Damon and Uncle Brock also played quarterback. So he's got the lineage. We'll see if he can put pen to paper and make it a good college career, one good enough to earn an NFL shot like his dad and uncle did. Brock and Damon Heward, big names in college football and in the NFL circles during the mid-2000s. Now moving forward in his lone season at Cal Poly, Heward completed nearly over 50% of his passes, 2,200 yards, 18 touchdowns to 10 picks, as his Mustangs compiled an overall record of 3-8. Heward will now compete with Brandon Rose and Isaac Wilson to back up Utah quarterback Cam Rising, who missed the entirety of last season with a serious knee injury after leading the Utes to back-to-back Pac-12 titles in 2021 and 2022. You talk about guys that have been around college football forever. Cam Rising is one of those individuals back. I think it's his 7th year with Utah and in college football in general, but Cam Rising will be the starter, and Sam Heward looking to be the next guy up, waiting in the wings. Moving forward with your NFL news, unfortunate news that Joe Collier, the former Buffalo Bills head coach and the architect of the Denver Broncos' Orange Crush defense, passed away at the age of 91. The Broncos said that Collier's family confirmed that he had passed away at his Littleton, Colorado home on Monday night. Joe Collier is one of the most impactful coaches in the history of the Denver Broncos and regarded as the best among the best defensive coordinators of all time. The Broncos said in the statement he was an innovator in the NFL with his 3-4 defense, helping the Broncos to 3 Super Bowl appearances during a legendary career with our franchise that spanned more than 2 decades. In a recent interview with the Associated Press regarding Randy Granachar's induction into Canton this summer, Collier said, "It's long overdue. I couldn't be prouder of him. Randy was a great leader of our defense." Collier spent 20 years on the Broncos coaching staff from 1969 to 1988, a tenure surpassed only by Mike Shanahan's 21 years with the organization. Collier helped Denver to a 168, 132, and 7 record, 5 division titles, and a Super Bowl appearance after the 1977, 1986, and 1987 seasons. And again, Collier passing away this week at the age of 91. Well, one free agent wide receiver that will not be inking a deal to compete for the wide receiver 3 spot with the Minnesota Vikings, but behind Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, is wide receiver Tyler Boyd. He announced yesterday that he's signing with the Tennessee Titans on a 1-year deal that's worth up to $4.5 million. Those figures and length up to confirmed by ESPN's Jeremy Fowler on Tuesday. The move reunites Boyd with new Titans coach Brian Callahan, who was the offensive coordinator in Cincinnati since 2019. And in Tennessee, Boyd will join a depth chart that already includes free agent addition Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, superstar guy, been around for a long time, also includes 2022 first-round pick Treylon Burks, whose future with the Titans has been a topic of speculation this offseason and certainly isn't a good sign when you bring in a veteran who can contribute right away, a couple of 1,000-yard seasons to his name in his career and 6,000 receiving yards in his career as well. Tyler Boyd comes in, and Treylon Burks all of a sudden could be an early cut candidate for the Tennessee Titans. They also got a youngster on the roster named Kyle Phillips who could be in jeopardy. The Titans are choosing veteran leaders over youth and inexperience at wide receiver. I think they're kind of fed up with the dice roll of the young receivers. Burks and Phillips maybe haven't worked out so far. Some people say, hey, don't give up on them yet, but certainly the Titans look like they're trending in that direction. Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, and Tyler Boyd, one of the older starting receiving corps in the National Football League, belongs there in Nashville. Now rounding out the segment here, the NFL will release its full schedule on May 15th. That is 1 week from today at 7 o'clock Central Time. That's according to Ben Fisher of Sports Business Journal. Pro Football Talk at NBCSports.com with the article. PFT previously reported that the signs pointed to the release of the schedule next week, and now it's official next Wednesday night. We'll break it down for you next Thursday, including the Minnesota Vikings home slate. Couple big teams projected to come to town, and teams had been expecting the release this Thursday, and the reason for the delay was not explained by the league in the memo. But there you have it, the NFL. In case we need one other big news item, the NFL schedule will be released next Wednesday night. We already have little tidbits out there, including one game completely solidified. It's Packers at Eagles. Not really in Philadelphia. It's down in Sao Paulo, Brazil for the season opener on a Friday for both of those teams. Can't wait for that. And the best part of it all is that it's week 1. So the Packers and the Eagles will have some time. They won't have to worry tremendously about the rest. It's a very long flight down there and a big concern if it were mid-season. But top-tier scheduling to at least if you're going to play a game in South America so far from home. I think they said it's a 13-hour flight from Philly and Green Bay. Pretty exhausting. At least it's week 1 for both of those teams. Coming up next on the show is your opportunity to win big, and I mean really big. Usually we got the OPH gift card, maybe some other goodies for you. Today we got the OPH gift card. We got a 6-pack of cupcakes and a 4-pack of Minnesota Twins tickets up for grabs coming up next. The identity crisis, former NBA basketball player, was your courtesy clue off the jump. Get your wheels turning, get your mind thinking, get ready to rumble. The identity crisis presented by OPH coming up next on the Wednesday edition of Overtime.
Get ESPN with the free app and online. Grab your phone or call us up on your smart device. Now let's get you back to Overtime with Bert Ramin on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO.
The time is now, people. The time is now to win big. The identity crisis brought to you by the original Pancake House in Sioux Falls is on deck. We're ready to go. Would you like to see the New York Yankees? Maybe you really hate them and want to see them lose to the Twins. Maybe you love them because, after all, they're a national brand. Like them or not, you can't argue that the Yankees are insanely popular. They'll be in Twin Cities Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week, and I've got 4 tickets to Wednesday's contest up for grabs. That also includes a 6-pack of cupcakes to Oh My Cupcakes to ensure that you don't drop the ball for Mother's Day, and, of course, an OPH gift card. It's time now for the identity crisis brought to you by the original Pancake House. Former NBA player, let's do it. It's the identity crisis on Overtime.
I don't know. Who are you? Me? I know who I am. I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
Well, this is exhausting. Let's see if you can tell us the sports figure we're talking about in today's identity crisis on Overtime.
The number is always to dial for the identity crisis, 605-362-3776. I'm hanging up on one individual. The only rule that I have now with the identity crisis is you can't call me before I deliver at least one clue. You got to at least pretend you know who you're talking about when I give you one clue. Former NBA basketball player, you can take a guess, but you're not going to get close unless I give a clue. So after the first clue, you're welcome to dial me up, 605-362-3776. The identity crisis right now on Overtime, brought to you by the original Pancake House. Now, former NBA basketball player, clue number 1. This player was a point guard and a shooting guard during his career. Clue number 2. This player wore jersey numbers 31, 4, and 3 during his career. His career spanned from 1999 to 2018. Went to the University of Arizona. And your 5th and final clue, pay attention here. This player began his career with the Atlanta Hawks, played 8 years, and is most notably a Dallas Maverick. Also played for the Celtics, the Nets, the Rockets, and the Milwaukee Bucks. Hawks, Mavericks, Celtics, Nets, Rockets, and Bucks. And again, 8 years with Dallas. That's the team that this player is best known for playing for. I got a caller on line number 1 who thinks they know who I'm talking about today. Welcome to the show. What's your name?
Derek.
Derek, I appreciate the call. Derek, you could win a pretty big prize pack right now if you can tell me who I'm talking about. It includes New York Yankees, Minnesota Twins tickets for next Wednesday. Who you got for me, Derek?
Jason Terry.
That is correct. Jason Terry is the correct answer. Derek, you just got a huge prize pack. I also got you a 6-pack of cupcakes. So you're going to be sitting pretty with the missus or with the mom or both. 6-pack of cupcakes brought to you by Oh My Cupcakes. Derek, congratulations, man. I don't think it was too hard today, but you get the job done. Good work.
Thank you.
All right, Derek, hang on hold. I'll get you hooked up with your prize pack. The Identity Crisis, always brought to you by the Original Pancake House. And a reminder, you can win once per month on Overtime. I would love to hook you all up once every 30 days on the program. The number, as always, to contest with us is easy. I would save it in my phone if I were you, 605-362-3776. Before we go to break, the NHL draft did finalize their lottery last night for you hockey fans out there. Macklin Celebrini, not only a fun name to say, but a really good prodigy for the sport of hockey. Watch the NHL Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly slowly flip the placard to reveal that the San Jose Sharks had secured the top overall pick in the 2024 NHL Draft Lottery last night. Celebrini said, "My heart was beating. You really can't prepare for it. It's so unique and so special." The Boston University star, who is expected to be the first overall pick in this year's NHL Draft, is set for the Sphere in Las Vegas in June. It was excitement and really a little anxiety, said Celebrini. The Sharks finished last in the overall standing, so all is right in the world. It goes to a lottery, which I'm a fan of. I would love if the NFL adopted a lottery system, but the Sharks finished last in the standings, 19 wins, and retained their first position in the lottery. San Jose had an 18.5% chance to win and a 25% chance to pick first. The lottery did prove to be anticlimactic with no changes to the draft order this season. The Chicago Blackhawks, who notably leapt up in the lottery last year and lucked out with Connor Bedard as the top pick, they will pick second this year, followed by Anaheim at number 3. And again, Macklin Celebrini, little more on him. He's a Vancouver native, ties to the Bay Area, and the son of Rick Celebrini, the Golden State Warriors Director of Sports Medicine and Performance. Macklin lived in the San Jose area and played for the San Jose Junior Sharks, 14 and under AAA team. So Celebrini, just 17 years old, very likely to be the big selection on draft night for the NHL to the San Jose Sharks. And for you Blackhawks fans like me, you get Connor Bedard, he's really darn good. There's other big names on the roster and a couple other youngsters that are playing really well after a pretty down year relative that we expected. But you get the number 2 overall pick this year. Going to be pretty nice. The future of the Chicago Blackhawks if all of this works out in the near term. We'll tune it up for hour number 2. Headlines and highlights coming up next. Still to come, the latest from the NBA. The odds there, and Jamal Murray will not be suspended for throwing a couple of objects near the floor, one of them on the floor on Game 2's loss to Minnesota. Why I disagree with that and what's ahead in terms of that series. Augustana alum, LA Chargers quarterback Casey Bauman will join us at 12:30. Stick around. It's Overtime on a Wednesday.